Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the United States versus France Olympic preview. We'll also be discussing the men's Olympic soccer Matchday 1 full preview, those set of matches, besides obviously the USA France that has the opening segment. We'll talk about Calafiori, him being set to move to Arsenal. We'll also discuss some of the top moments in men's Olympic soccer history. And make sure to stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top soccer headlines. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that y'all like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the Tips and Donations League at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with the USMNT versus France Olympic preview. This is the opening game for both of these two teams. Big game in the fact that these are probably the two front runners in that group. Obviously, France being the best team in that group. But US, just based on sheer footballing history and talent and all that, we project that they should still get out of this group despite the French super team being here. But it's not a great start for the US, taking on France at the Velodrome. It's going to be a packed house. I assume the Velodrome is going to be completely packed up. Completely packed, filled up with the 67,000 fans that it can hold. I expect it to be completely filled. And France will be taking on the USA in a full stadium. This is this is a side, and these U23 players, not much has played under the pressure that these U.S. men's national or Olympic team players will face at this in this opening game. Now, I'll tell you what. At the back, in terms of Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, we do have the experience there. Walker Zimmerman played in big-time World Cup games, so this will be nothing for him. And Miles Robinson, hasn't played in the World Cup stage, but he's played he's played in Gold Cup semifinal, finals. But some of these other players, the Kevin Paredes, the John Tolkins, the Caleb Wileys, the Georgia Mihailovic, who was also another experienced player, but actually he did play. I believe he was part of that Gold Cup team as well. But the Tanner Tessmans, the Benjamin Kramaskis, the Gianluca Bussios. Bussio also has played in the Gold Cup. But overall, these players are rather inexperienced, and that pressure of playing in front of 67,000 on the road against a host nation is big pressure, and it makes it much more difficult for them. And this French team is absolutely loaded when you look at the fact that they'll have Jean-Philippe Mateta and Alexander Lacazette both leading the line. These are two really good strikers that have done it at the high, really great forwards that have done it at the highest of levels. And they're both physically hard to impose with the Jean-Philippe Mateta being 6'4", and Lacazette having that physical stout nature about him. It's gonna be very interesting to me how Thierry Henry will line up this team with the fact that both of his players playing, up top, these are both forward striker sort of players. So does he go with an old school, more type of 4-4-2 sort of formation, or how does he fit these two guys in the lineup? Because these are two guys that are going to start. He also in the back, there's experience there with the overage player of Loic Bade, who's played very good for Sevilla. One of those players that's just unlucky in the fact that he misses out when you look at the likes of unlucky when he misses on the France national team because of the amazing amount of center backs that they have. But you also have the likes of Michael Olise that's going to play, he's a winger slash midfielder who can give you a little bit of everything. This huge quality, set piece specialist. Ryan Cherki, we know the quality that this player has. Overall, this is a French team that is very, very, very loaded and that provides a lot of quality. There's goals into this team. There's quality in this team. Defensively, they're very, very solid. There's not much holes there. I think the biggest question mark is really Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry has been a manager that hasn't improved much as a manager, in terms of what he did at Monaco, Montreal. Hasn't improved much in his time as a manager, and now has this time as a U23 head coach for this Olympic team playing at home. Maybe he can revive his managerial career, because if he can lead this team to a gold medal, I think it's a very good way to kind of revive his career. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, so in the last preseason or friendly that they played, not preseason, but friendly that they played with a 4-4-2. They brought in Olise in a more midfield role, played him alongside Enzo Miliot, Manu Kone, Joris Shortart, and then had Philip Mateta and Lacazette as the two forwards up top. So it's a little bit more of a direct approach, and it puts the onus on the likes of Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman to really because they don't have a numerical advantage there with the fact that Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. Now what Marko Mitrovic can do, knowing that they're probably going to play this 4-4-2 or 4-3-1-2, depending on which way you want to look at it. Maybe he might go with, I'm talking about Mitrovic, or Mirotic, I can't say his name right, but the US Olympic coach. Maybe he goes with three at the back, so they have that numerical advantage of their center backs going up against Philip Mateta and Lacazette, just so they have that numerical advantage. This is obviously going to be a game that they're going to have to sit in, they're going to have to play in the counter, and they're going to rely on moments. They're not going to be able to dominate this game with patterns of domination, of being able to move the ball around. They're not going to play this possession-oriented. France just has too much quality of that. They're going to have a majority of the ball, they're going to have a majority of the chances created. So maybe Mitrovic, to combat the fact that they play with two up top, might throw in that extra center half just to give themselves a numerical advantage, because going up with the likes of the quality of player that Jean-Philippe Mateta, Lacazette is, you're going to need that extra man, you're going to need that extra body in there to cover up any spaces, because any mistake you can make, these are the sort of quality of players that will make you pay. This is Alexander Lacazette, that is an experienced player that's done it many years in the Premier League, many years in the French League. This is Jean-Philippe Mateta that's been a critical part of Crystal Palace and their success over the past few years, remaining in that mid-table side in the Premier League, and it's been through the likes of him and Michael Olise, who's going to be playing right behind them too. So, maybe he goes with the back three, add and get a numerical advantage of center half. Because it is a game that we're going to have to sit in. The U.S. are going to have to sit in. They're not going to be able to outplay France. This is a sort of game against this quality of team. This is a sort of game that we will be satisfied as a U.S. men's national team fan, or a U.S. Olympic soccer team fan. I don't know if men's national team is really the right title for this, but that's not here nor there. But this is a really kind of sort of game that we'll be satisfied with the point. And the fact that, playing against the host nation in the opening game is really a very difficult task, and the fact that you're going up against all this sort of you're going up against all 67,000 fans in the stadium. Mostly all of them, or not all of them, but a lot of them going to be French fans. I'm pretty sure there'll be a good contingent of U.S. fans traveling at the Olympics. Maybe a lot of casuals trying to tune into the first match of the Olympics, first big event for the Olympics for Team USA. So I'm not going to say there's not going to be a lot of people. There's not going to be no U.S. fans, but it's going to be a majority pro-French contingent. And this is a France U23 team that's going to come in, and they're going to want to set the tone for the tournament. They're going to want to start with a bang. They're going to want to start on positive momentum in this tournament and build something special. That I'm sure that's what Thierry Henry is preaching to us. This is the start of something special, and they're going to want to start off with a dominating way. And also keep in mind, a few months ago, the US U23 team took on France, and it did finish 2-2. It finished 2-2, and that's something that France, they were able to look at the US and say, now the US, you can say this the same for the US, but it finished 2-2, a little bit different teams. I think Kate Cowell scored in that game. For some reason, despite his great season that he's having today, this season in Chivas, he's not part of this team. Yeah, that US France game, this US-France game, it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, I think here's the problem. The problem that the US rely on themselves in is, yes, if they sit in and they play for the draw, okay, but I don't think, eventually, you're going to need to be able to stove off pressure and get players off your back, and you're going to need that target man. Can Duncan Maguire provide that threat in behind? Can Duncan Maguire provide hold-up play? Is he the sort of player that you can play through in these sort of moments? And, and now if we can get the ball to the likes of Kevin Paredes and Taylor Booth, maybe they got, some ability to do it in transition. But with Duncan Maguire up top now, he's going to work hard. But is he going to provide that a little bit of quality up top? Is he a sort of target man that when you play the ball to him, it'll stick and he can get another player in and, spring an attack? Does he have the quality to do that at this sort of level? That's a major doubt I have. And yeah, if I had to predict, obviously I'm going to predict the France win. They're just much better overall. They're a better team. But the US, they could make it interesting. They could. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about the rest of the Olympic soccer matchday ones.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about the USMNT taking on France. We move on to discuss a full preview of the men's Olympic soccer match day 1. Some fabulous games coming up. Interesting ties all over the place. It's interesting. Usually, Olympics in the past, when it came to the group stage match days, obviously match day 3 always has consecutive or concurrent games, because of the the match fixing probability and all that. But in these Olympics, in the Olympics in the past, you had sort of like a weird schedule for match day 1 and 2. These Olympics is kind of simple in the fact that 2 teams play in one time slot, 2 teams play in the next, another 2 teams play in the third, and another 2 teams play in the fourth, all concurrent games. Usually you get this weird schedule where you have a match kickoff, and then you have another match kickoff 30 minutes later, and then you have another match kickoff 2 hours later, then another match kicks off 30 minutes later, and it's a really, really weird schedule. But this time around, they've decided to make it a little bit more simple for us viewing fans. 2 games at a time, 4 time slots, simple. And honestly, I do like that a little bit more because it's just hard tracking, 30 minutes, I gotta turn on this game right here, and another hour, it's time to put this game right here. Now you just have 2 games going on at one time. You can focus on 2 games at a time, have one on one screen, have one on another, focus on those, next game, next time slot, which makes it a little bit more simple. A little bit more simple. That's the correct way for it. But yeah, just talking about some of these games kicking off. So Guinea taking on New Zealand. Kickoff will be at Stade de Nice. Interesting game going on there. The 2 other groups that are not in the France and USA group. This is comprised of New Zealand, who in terms of footballing history, out of that Oceania, they made some World Cups out of that. Olympic Games, they were actually, the best result was at the Tokyo Olympics. They actually ended up reaching that quarterfinal, the Tokyo Olympics. Guinea will have the likes of Naby Keita, who's an overage player for the national team, and he will actually be the flag bearer for Guinea at the Paris 2024 opening ceremony, which is interesting because the USMNT was not even allowed or won't be allowed to be at the Paris opening ceremony because of the fact that they have a game next day. Well, Naby Keita will be the flag bearer for Guinea at the Paris 2024 opening ceremony. That was very interesting. Maybe they have a game closer in there. Maybe have a game closer in to where the opening ceremony will be. But you also have the likes of Iliax Moriba playing part of this Guinean national team. He is a Guinean professional forward. He plays as a central midfielder for RB Leipzig. He was actually at Barcelona. He was actually at Barcelona a few years ago. Got a few caps there. He was on Valencia on loan for a few seasons, and then Gaddafi on loan. Now he's back at Leipzig. It's a player with some real quality, and there's the combination of him and Naby Keita, it will make it a little bit tricky when they take on the US. So yeah, these are 2 decent teams, and obviously the winner of this game will probably be the biggest threat to the US in terms of getting out of the group. So as a USMNT fan, this is a big game to watch. But yeah, move on. So obviously France take on USA. The French Olympic team has won 3 and lost 1 of their previous 4 Olympic games against CONCACAF teams, and they actually, last time they played, they lost 4-1 against Mexico, 4-1 last year at the Olympic Games. But this is a totally different team, much more loaded, and it's very exciting to see what this team can do. Gianluca Busio, when speaking about this game, I believe we can do something special. We have very talented young players. We have guys playing in Europe and MLS all over the world. I think we're not as talented as any other national team or as any other team. Thierry Henry, speaking about this game, for sure pressure is there because of what France has done in recent years. So the pressure is there from the moment you pull the shirt on. You owe it to yourself to represent your country well. Now we have Argentina, who take on Morocco. Argentina will be coached by Javier Mascherano, who's actually won an Olympic gold medal twice, playing in the 2004 Olympics and the 2008 Olympics. That 2008 Olympics, he actually won with Messi. This is a star-studded game, in my opinion. You have the likes of Nicolas Otamendi, Julian Alvarez, Thiago Alameda, all playing for Argentina, while Morocco have the likes of Hakim Ziyech playing for them as an overage player. So fabulous game, fascinating game. Really the game between the 2 top teams in this group, in my opinion. Both teams with real quality. This game will be played in Saint Etienne. Real quality game. When Alvarez was talking about this Olympic moments, he said, Mascherano called me and I said yes to playing at the Olympics. I had to talk to my club. We had some back and forth, and they let me go. It's the only thing I've yet to win, and obviously it's a privilege to play in it. So yeah, this will be a fascinating game. Some real quality all over the pitch. Argentina are definitely the favorites. In my opinion, Argentina are the biggest threats to France to getting these gold medals at these Olympic Games. There's some real quality in this team. There's also some experience. I think they have leadership in terms of their head coach, a player that's done it. He also was able to do it at the Olympic Games twice, so he kind of knows how this goes. So yeah, exciting to watch that game. Iraq took on Ukraine. Iraq has actually never lost their opening match at the Olympics. They've won 3, they've drawn 2. They've actually had some fascinating performances at the Olympic Games. They drew against Brazil, the host Brazil in 2016, a team that had Neymar, Marquinhos, Rafinha, Alcantara, Thiago's brother. Some very, very good players on that team, and Iraq was able to hold them in Brazil. They've also had other fabulous performances at the Olympic Games. They were able to defeat Portugal with Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, a 19-year-old Ronaldo in the 2004 Olympics in Athens. They were able to defeat him there and defeat the Portugal there. So, and it's weird. They've had this Olympic success, but they've never really turned that success for the national team. Haven't done much in terms of the Asian Cup. Haven't reached the World Cup in my lifetime. So, yeah, Ukraine, they're making their Olympic debut. They qualified by reaching the semifinals of the U23 of the European Under-21 Championship. And obviously they don't have their best young players like the likes of Mikhailo Mudryk, but this is a team with some quality, with some players playing domestically, with some players playing in other teams in Europe. So fascinating to watch this game take place. Spain take on Uzbekistan. Now, I'll have to be honest, I don't have much knowledge over Uzbekistan, but they're making their first appearance at the men's Olympic football tournament. So a great way for them to start this new generation of Uzbekistani players. Then Spain. Spain actually made the silver medals of the last Olympic Games. This is a team with quality in there. Fernin playing from Barcelona, Eric Garcia playing from Barcelona, Pau Cubarsí playing from Barcelona. Also have some overage players of the likes of Sergio Gomez. So interesting team. They've won 6 and lost 1 of their last 7 Olympic Games against Asian teams. This is a Spain team with real quality, real ability. Also another threat to the France to winning the gold medal. I believe they're probably the 3rd best team at these Olympic Games. This is a team, real quality all around. Obviously they're Spanish, so they're all technically gifted players. They're all gifted at the ball. They kind of play the same similar style of play as the Spain senior team. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. I expect them to handle this game. And this game is also going to be played at the Parc des Princes in Paris. A big stage game. Don't think they're going to necessarily fill out the stadium because that's going to be hard, but it's still going to be an interesting game. Santi Denies, the Spanish national team coach, speaking about this game, said, "We have to dream big, but we need to take it step by step. Really focus on the opening game against Uzbekistan, getting the 3 points. We know about the teams we're up against after that and how difficult it will be." Egypt, next game. Egypt taking on Dominican Republic. Egypt actually has an amazing history at these Olympic Games in terms of always being there. They've made the most appearances by an African team at the Olympic Games. This is 13 participations for them. They constantly make it in my lifetime of watching Olympic soccer. They're always involved, and they actually have the experience of a guy, for an overage player, of Mohamed Al Neni, that's played at a top club at Arsenal. So he'll be in there being the conductor of that team. Real young, talented team of Egyptian, real quality. They weren't able to get all their guys, but still, in terms of the domestic guys, they were able to get some of the class. This game will be playing on Nantes. Dominican Republic, they're making their first ever appearance at the Olympic Games. They qualified by finishing as runner-ups at the men's U20 championship in 2022. They actually, finished above Mexico. So Mexico will not be here, and they were able to get it over Mexico. They're going to have the likes of Junior Firpo representing them at these Olympic Games. As an overrated player, if y'all remember him, he used to play at Barcelona. Now he's at Leeds. Really good player. And he's a hybrid left back, center back. So it's interesting to see how Ibai Gomez, the Dominican Republic coach, fits him in there. Japan take on Paraguay. In my opinion, one of the more high-quality games of this group stages. Japan, they always have it about them. They're always a high-quality team. They always have about them in this Olympic Games. They actually did not take a single overage player. They've made the most participants in this tournament for over every other Asian nation. 12th overall, 8th in a row. And then Paraguay is a team that has some real quality. They're taking the likes of Julio and Ciso into this tournament. He was able to get the clear from Brighton. So yeah, there's some real quality in this game. Paraguay will play an intense up and down game. In Japan, they always have that quality. They play that sort of Brazilian-esque sort of style of play, real quality and real character and courage in terms of how they play. And then final game, Mali take on Israel. Now Mali are featuring at this tournament only for the second time. They played their first one in Athens 2004, where they actually were able to reach the quarterfinals, but then they lost against Italy. Israel's only previous time that they played an Olympic game against the African team was in 1968 when they took on Ghana 5-3 against in 1968. This game will also be at the Parc des Princes in Paris. Will be playing the same time as the French game, so France USA game. So yeah, fascinating to watch how that goes down. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Calafiori being set to make that move to Arsenal.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Riccardo Calafiori, he is set for a move to Arsenal. Arsenal have already, it's been a few days now that Arsenal has agreed a fee. There was a little bit of hold up in there. Still is not finalized right now, but there's a little bit of hold up as Basel and Bologna need to agree on a sell-on clause sort of deal, how to structure that sell-on clause. But it's clear that Calafiori is going to be going to Arsenal. It's not official. He hasn't had his medical yet, but it's basically official. Transfer fee has been decided, and yeah, Calafiori, he's going to be an Arsenal player. And in my opinion, this is actually, they're getting him on a relatively low bargain when you look at the fact that, you know, transfer window over the past few years or so has been ridiculous. You know, things have gone crazy when you look at the likes of some of these players that have cost, and now the fact that he's not English, obviously that has a big factor in it. The fact that this player is not English, and you know that when it comes to Premier League players, there's always that English task. But you know, with this coming, what's going on with the likes of this, going to be around 45 million pounds, roughly, give or take. In this market that we have today, especially when you look at, you know, United having to pay, you know, 62 million for a Lenioro who only has 1 year left on his deal. You know, this is a really big move. This is a really good move for Arsenal. He's a young player. He's 22 years old. He's a very young player. He was the leader at the back for Italy at these European Championship. He actually didn't play in the game that they got knocked out against Switzerland. He had a yellow card suspension. He created the moment that saved them at this European Championship. He showed he's very, very comfortable on the ball. He can defend one-on-one. He has a very good left foot, and the way he plays, the nature of him, the quality that he has on the ball, of pushing the ball up the field, you know that he can play, as a center back or even as a left back. He gives you that flexibility that Mikel Arteta has taken advantage of with the likes of Ben White, been able to having this sort of player that has that center back ability to defend, but also has the quality to bring the ball up as a left back and be comfortable going forward. You're having 4 center backs back there essentially, and that's going to make your defense even more unstoppable. And he's an upgrade over what you have there. You also have the likes of Julian Timber, who's only going to get back, who also gives you more flexibility. You're building yourself a team similar of Manchester City in terms of a lot of players that can play in multiple positions, that have real quality, that have real focus and won't make mistakes. I think it's a very, very good move for them. And for the amount of money, I think it's an A+ sort of move. Because let's face it, 48 million pounds or whatever, that's a ridiculously great deal for Calafiori. Really good deal. You have flexibility. He's gonna be, he's gonna play in multiple positions, and this is phenomenal for Arsenal. But is this enough for Arsenal? Is this the move that'll take them over the top? Now I think this is another good move for Arsenal, but is this the move that'll take them over the likes of Manchester City? Does the defense last year was already really solid, so how much better can the defense really get? Now, I think having Calafiori in there as a left back, number one, makes that left midfield side, or the left side of the defense, I think it makes it really strong. But does it make it that much better defensively? Now, you could argue we will get a little bit more going forward from the likes of Calafiori. I think he'll give you more than what Tomiyasu or Kivior was able to give you. But overall, no, I don't see. Now also, Gabriel, this is a center back that I'm not really high on. Now, obviously, he's been protected over the past few years, or one would say he's been dominant over the past few years. I wouldn't say that. But this is a Gabriel that I think has a mistake in him, and I just defensively, I'm not so sure about him. I have to be honest. I don't think he's as good as a defender as a lot of Arsenal fans think. So this gives Mikel Arteta, if he, decides to show his, the form starts getting bad for Gabriel, you got the flexibility of being able to put in Calafiori there or shift it up and put a Timber back there as well. And I just think the overall array of defenders and sheer quality that these players have, there's a lot of quality in this team now for Arsenal, especially defensively. An amazing amount of quality. Now, does it answer the issues with the midfield? I think midfield, Thomas Partey, he has quality, right? But can he be counted on game in, game out? Do you play a Jorginho back in there? Is he going to be able to control the midfield like he did in the past? He is able to play that forward pass and really conduct the game, but the lack of athleticism when you have him in midfield, and then you play Declan Rice as a lone 6, and you get that Aston Villa performance where Arsenal, they don't create much because Declan Rice doesn't give you much in terms of forward passing range. You want him playing a little bit more advanced, so you don't have him on the ball as much in terms of receiving the ball off the back line. I think Arsenal need to get in another number 6, someone like a João Palhinha, someone who can take the ball out of the back line, has the athleticism that Jorginho doesn't have to get around in midfield to protect the back line, but also has the quality to, spring in a forward ball to push Declan Rice a little bit higher up the field, a little bit closer to Martin Odegaard, so Declan Rice doesn't have to do those and show, because Declan Rice, he's just, he doesn't have that ability, in my opinion, to pick the ball off of the back line and look up and hit that forward pass. He goes sideways and backwards too much, and he just doesn't have that forward thinking nature. And I never thought that. Even at West Ham, I never really saw that in him. A lot of people, they wanted to, he's English, and obviously that gives you a lot more praise than you deserve. But let's be for real. Now, Kai Havertz, is this the solution up top now into a full season? Kai Havertz, he's a guy that up and down, up and down, up and down. He started down last year, and that probably cost them. Is these up and downs going to continue? Can you rely on Gabriel Jesus there? I think you need to bring in someone who's efficient, game in, game out, that'll be consistent up top if you really want to challenge Manchester City, because you can't, if you saw Kai Havertz at these European Championship, they looked much more efficient when Füllkrug was coming in off the bench. Kai Havertz, yes, he has real quality, but sometimes the finishing is not there. Sometimes the form is just not there, and he's just not performing anywhere near the levels that he's supposed to be performing at. So how do they fix that issue? And then, if Kai Havertz is not the solution, is Gabriel Jesus is? Does Arsenal, can they bring in that elite striker that play game in, game out? I think that will be a big factor. Bringing a striker game in, game out, as well as, getting a number 6 that has the athleticism that Jorginho doesn't have in terms of getting all around, but also has his sort of, his close to his sort of ability in terms of being a composer, moving the ball from side to side, moving the ball forward, hitting that forward pass that can break in between the lines, that can really, crack a defense and open up a game for them. That'll be the 2 moves that Arsenal really need to make to really bridge the gap against Manchester City. So basically, you get Erling Haaland and Rodri. Get those 2 sort of players. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to the top moments in men's, or we'll talk about the top moments in men's Olympic soccer history.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. To access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we talked about Calafiori being set to move to Arsenal. We move on to talk about some of the top moments in men's Olympic soccer history. Now, Olympic Games have been something, men's Olympic soccer has been something that's been a little bit disrespected over the past few years. I don't think there's been a hype that it really deserves, because I've always enjoyed watching men's Olympic soccer. I don't believe the Olympics are the same if there is no soccer. I think soccer is the greatest sport in the world, so why not have it in one of the greatest sporting stages in the world in terms of the Olympics? And I do wish men's Olympics was a little bit similar in terms of women's Olympics. Kind of be that replacement for the Confederation Cup. Why not? Why not? I think players will value having an Olympic gold medal. I do, especially if they didn't have the ridiculous amount of games that they already have going on nowadays. I think players would really be, heavily vying to get a spot in the Olympic Games, and really would be pushing their clubs to play at these Olympic Games. But there's been some fascinating moments at the men's Olympic Games. I mean, absolutely fascinating moments. And in my lifetime, I'll tell you this. The first Olympic soccer match I remember watching was in 2012 when Great Britain took on Senegal, and their opening game of the 2012 London Olympic Games. I have not seen that was the first game. So I did not see the 2008 Olympics. So I said previously, this is going to be my first time watching the U.S. men's Olympic team play a soccer game at the Olympics. This is going to be my first time ever in my lifetime, because we have not qualified over the past few Olympic games in 2012, 2016, 2021. It's my first time ever getting to see that, and I'm very, very excited to get to watch that tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be fascinating, and there's been some huge moments in terms of men's Olympic soccer moments that we will discuss here. I'm not gonna really count it down. I'm just gonna talk about the moments I remember. Now, obviously, it's the greatest moments of them all, and it's Neymar who led Brazil to the gold medal for the first time ever at the Rio Olympic Games in 2016. There's so many storylines here in terms of the fact that 2 years ago they had that humiliating 7-1 defeat at home in the World Cup to Germany. 2 years later, they got a chance to play Germany again in the Olympic gold medal final in the exact same stadium that they trounced them 7-1 at the Maracanã. And it was Neymar who scored the goal, the free kick goal, to make it 1-0. Eventually, Germany equalized, and who also went on to score the game-winning penalty. And, Neymar wasn't able to play in that World Cup semifinal. He was, that back injury. So he was able to get his it's not revenge, let's be honest. Winning the World Cup 7-1, you're never going to get revenge for that. Olympic Games, World Cup, let's just put that in reality right now. It's not revenge, but something sweet, something to celebrate, and the whole nation erupted. It was a huge, huge moment for them, winning their first Olympic Games. And it'll go down, at the legendary Maracanã Stadium, it'll go down as one of the biggest moments in Brazilian soccer history, let alone Olympic soccer history. There was so much pressure on that side. There was so much pressure on Neymar that grew throughout the tournament, because the tournament, started off really, really slow for them, and the fact that opening game that they really struggled against South Africa, finished 0-0. And then I believe it finished 0-0 in both games, against South Africa and against Iraq. Another game finished 0-0, and huge, huge pressure was on the players. I mean, an unbelievable amount of players. The criticism was getting so heavy, not just on the players, but specifically on Neymar. Massive, massive criticism, and it was just, pelting and pelting and pelting and pelting and pelting. But then as they eased themselves into the tournament, they were able to get that open trounce against Denmark in the final match day. They were able to completely destroy Denmark, take them apart. I think they won that game like 4-5-0. And they were able to get into the quarterfinal stages. I believe they took on Colombia in that quarterfinal at the Sao Paulo Stadium, and Neymar was able to hit his first free kick at the tournament, an absolute brilliant free kick. I believe they went on to win that game 2-1. Then they took on Honduras team in the semifinal, and then in that game, Neymar scored the fastest ever Olympic goal, just 14 seconds in, and they were able to completely trounce that Honduras team. That set up the final against Germany, where Germany embarrassed them 7-1 in that same stadium 2 years before. And it was a tight, tense game. Germany had their chances to win it. They had, after they made it 1-1, they hit the post, I believe, in extra time, or at extra time, or the end of normal time, I forgot. But they had their opportunities to win it, but in penalties, Brazil was able to get it done, and it was an absolute great moment. You have the scene of Neymar, looking up in the heavens in tears. It was an absolutely great moment. The stadium was completely packed, absolutely packed stands, and it was an unbelievable moment for Brazilian football. Keep in mind too, Brazil, they really, really valued this tournament. Neymar was given an option from Barcelona to either play at the Summer's Copa America or play at the Olympic Games. They valued the Olympic Games so much in the fact that they've never won it, and the fact that they were at home, that Neymar did not play in that Copa America, so he was able to play at the Olympic Games. That's how much they valued it. That's how much they wanted this tournament, and they were able to get it done. Absolutely phenomenal. Nigeria, they were able to make history in 1996, where they were able to make an historic gold medal run. They were known as the Dream Team in Nigeria. It was a team with some real quality. Nwankwo Kanu, Sunday Olise, JJ Okocha, Kristin Babayaro, Daniel Amukachi, Taribo West. Real ability amongst this team, real quality, and they bursted onto the scene in this tournament. They didn't have any expectations entering the tournament. Their head coach, Joe Bonfair, had quit before the tournament, but the players, they convinced him to return, and it was important that they did because they were able to, surprise and shock the world. They scored so many goals. They were free attack minded. They were flamboyant. They went head to head with top teams. Took on the likes of Brazil in the group stages and the semifinal. Ronaldo R9, he was playing for that Brazilian team. He actually scored the only goal in the group stage game as Brazil defeated Nigeria in that group stage game. And it looked like that Brazil was able to kind of beat Nigeria again because they led that game 3-1. But Nigeria, they came back in a phenomenal comeback, and they took the game to the extra time when they were able to get a 90th minute flicked goal from Kanu, and then Kanu was able to score again and make it 4-3 in extra time, which that was back then when they had the golden goal. And it took Nigeria to the final against Argentina. Now, Nigeria were heavy underdogs in the final, and they were also thrilling in that game, 3-2. But another amazing comeback. They won that game 3-2, but they were down 2-1 with 15 minutes to go, and another amazing comeback. They ended up winning that game 3-2, and this was an Argentina team that had the likes of Hernan Crespo and Claudio Lopez. So real phenomenal team. This game was actually at the Atlanta Olympics in America. It was played. That final game was played with over 86,000 fans at Sanford Stadium, home of the University of Georgia football. Georgia football, and Nigeria, they became Africa's first ever team to win gold in Olympic football. I'd say another brilliant moment was, we're running out of time. I'll go quickly. The USMNT, in terms of US, they finished fourth in their best ever finish at in the modern Olympic era in Sydney 2000, when teenager Landon Donovan rushed onto the scene. They finished fourth. He was the youngest player on the US squad, and he didn't even make his full USMNT debut at that point, and he went on to become their all-time leading goal scorer later on. This is a team that had a lot of talented youngsters. Many of them were essential in helping the US reach the 2002 World Cup quarterfinal. 2 years later, when they took on in South Korea and Japan, real quality amongst this team. Even Tim Howard was a part of that team, and they beat Japan on penalties in the quarterfinal, where they set up a semifinal against Spain. Really stacked Spain team that had Carlos Puyol and Xavi. They lost to Spain, and then against a very talented Chilean national team, Olympic team, they ended up losing that bronze medal game. So they weren't able to medal, but it was an absolutely amazing run for them. Also, you have the likes of Messi and leading Argentina to back-to-back Olympic gold medals. The second time Messi played, he wasn't playing in both Olympic gold medals. Javier Mascherano, who's current coach of this Argentina team, was able to win both. But Messi was the leader of this team that won the Olympic gold medal in 2008 in Beijing. He won the Champions League a few months before, and it was really letting the world know that he was next up in line. And it was a storybook ending to an amazing season that he had in 2008. Messi, he was absolutely brilliant throughout the tournament, but this is a team that was extremely loaded. I mean, Lionel Messi, Sergio Aguero, Juan Riquelme, who was actually overage player, Pablo Zabaleta, Ezequiel Lavezzi, Javier Mascherano, Ever Benega, all part of one team in Olympic Games. They were able to play in the quarterfinals where they beat the Netherlands. Another Netherlands team that was actually loaded at that time as well, their Olympic team. Oh, and Angel Di Maria was also a part of this team. Messi was able to, Angel Di Maria was able to get the winner in that Olympic gold medal final, and and that actually ended up winning Argentina gold. And it was just absolutely phenomenal, this amount of talent playing at one Olympic Games. And yeah, there's been some brilliant moments. You also have the likes of Mexico getting their Olympic gold medal that they got in 2012. They were first in history. They were able to beat the likes of Brazil in the Olympic gold medal match. You had the rise of players like Giovanni Dos Santos, Hector Herrera, Oribe Peralta. Real quality in this team and real ability in this team, and they took the Olympic Games seriously, and they were able to, get past Brazil. So, and Marco Fabian. So there's been a lot of great Olympic moments, and we look excited to see another stage of great Olympic moments starting tomorrow as the Olympic soccer kickoff. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Reaction to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. A lot of interesting stuff coming up, especially with the Olympic soccer, but there's also some transfer rumors and all that coming up, and all that headlines in that type of time. Premier League kind of starts soon, really right after the Olympic Games. So yeah, Maresca, he was had his first opening press conference, and he defended Enzo Fernandez in terms of the chant. Enzo Maresca said Enzo Fernandez had no bad intentions with his offensive chant about the French players in their original and their nationality and all that, their country of origin and all that. You remember the midfielder after the Argentina Copa America final against Colombia was seen on Instagram Live singing an offensive song about the heritage of French players. Fernandez, he did apologize, and Chelsea initiated an internal investigation, a disciplinary investigation, and they also released a statement in which they said, acknowledge and appreciate our players' public apology, and will use this as an opportunity to educate. And speaking of this incident, Enzo Maresca said, I don't think there are any bad intentions behind it. Starting from that point, for me, it is quite easy. The player already did a statement apologizing. The club did the same, so there are not many things to add, but the only thing I can say from my point of view that I can add, that they're all young with good intentions. Good guy, good person, good human being. There was not any bad intention. So interesting approach there from Enzo Maresca. When also speaking about this, he asked if he felt update when he was asked about the team spirit and how it could be affected from this. He said, I don't think so, to be honest. Probably it is the immediate reaction. But all in all, I don't think so. I spoke with Enzo, but as I said, I spoke with all of them. The situation is quite clear. He did already a statement apologizing. The club did the same. So I think there's a little bit of a lack of accountability from Enzo Maresca, saying he had no bad intentions, but in the fact that he never really calls out exactly, what he did was wrong. And I think that was actually wrong, that he just came out and, not said anything about it, because you can't say it's not a big deal. I mean, you can say it's not a big deal, right? But I understand trying to diminish the situation, but why not condemn the action? Why not condemn the action and say it's unacceptable, but he knows he's a good guy, but we know he's a good guy. It's unacceptable what he said. Education is important, blah, 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 blah. Say something of that sort. But the way he said it, this a little bit alienates, the French players, in my opinion. If I was hearing that as a French player in the locker room, I'd be a little bit frustrated, but it is what it is. I don't think it's a big deal. Diego Luna, he's open to a Mexico switch after he was snubbed as the U.S. On the U.S. Olympic team. Real Salt Lake midfielder Diego Luna was, discussed and opened up and said he's, open to making a switch to represent Mexico after he turned down a chance to be an alternate on the U.S. men's Olympic roster, which I don't blame him for. He's much better than some of the players that they took. Luna, he's born in California, but he's also eligible to represent Mexico through his parents. But he's been involved with U.S. soccer youth programs. He played in U17, U20 teams, and he actually played a senior call-up in a friendly against Slovenia, which doesn't cap-tie him. He has never appeared for Mexico in any sort of way. But he's definitely not ruling that out. When Luna spoke with sources, he said, "I've never closed down any doors. For me, it's continuing to perform and who's going to give me the best opportunity. I know there's some changes going on at the Mexican Football Federation, U.S. Soccer too, but there are some big changes going on, so we'll see what happens there." So yeah, it's interesting. When Luna explained that he rejected the opportunity in order to Luna explained why that he rejected his opportunity so he can remain with his MLS team and continue to work towards work with the club. He said there's a lot of things that go into deciding to turn down being an Olympic backup. Some people from one side say something and from another side saying another, but no one is behind the human and mental aspect. For me, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that affected my decision, but basically it was being away for 6 or 7 games that can change my career. I'm in good form and playing well. My team is at the top of the league, so if we continue to do that and I play well, the options are endless. It was a decision I had to commit to, and I did. Mazraoui. Manchester United are targeting Bayern Munich's Noussair Mazraoui. Manchester United are looking at a number of right backs, including Mazraoui. And this move is highly depending on the likes of Wan-Bissaka does leave Old Trafford. Mazraoui, he's one of the names that's been under this consideration. There's also the likes of Jeremy Frimpong, but it seems like Mazraoui will be the easier transfer to pull off, with the 26-year-old is most likely going to be allowed by Bayern to leave if they're able to match evaluation. United just completed the transfer of Lenny Yoro from Lille, but they also want more defensive additions during this window. They still have high interest in Matthias de Ligt, despite the fact that that Bayern Munich want more than 42 million euros. And yeah, United, they're considering offers for Wan-Bissaka. There's been interest from Galatasaray and West Ham, and they want a fee of around 20 million euros. The 26-year-old only has 1 year left on his contract at Old Trafford, so it does make it a little bit tricky. So yes, Mazraoui is a part of Manchester United's long list of right backs to come in, and that's obviously depending on whether or not they're able to move off Wan-Bissaka, which it'll be interesting. That's a big loss of only for 20 million though. I forgot how much it was, but I know it was a high number that they played for Wan-Bissaka. Again, English tax. De Gea, he considered retirement over Erik ten Hag as he finally is closing in on a next club. De Gea, he parted ways with Manchester United at the end of the 22-23 season after spending over a decade at United. United weren't able to offer him a contract extension. Or they did offer a contract extension, but it was nowhere near what De Gea wanted, so he left the club. He's been a free agent since then, despite getting offers from La Liga clubs and Saudi Pro League clubs. According to sources, De Gea briefly considered retirement, and after leaving the Manchester United team, he felt hurt by how Erik ten Hag mistreated him, and the player reportedly revealed that the manager and then the football director John Murtough was responsible for him leaving United, and that he would consider returning to football if and when the duo left. Now, the player is expected to drop an announcement on his future in the coming weeks. There's reports coming that there's interest from the US, Saudi Arabia, MLS, Saudi Pro League, and Spain. And, he's still going to continue to play. And it'll be interesting to see what his next move will be. So, yes, guys, thank y'all for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my